Is drinking raw milk safe like RFK Jr. suggests? Can you reduce a glucose spike if you eat your food in, quote-unquote, the right order? I'm registered dietitian Abby Sharp. I host a nutrition myth-busting podcast called Bite Back with Abby Sharp, and those are just some of the questions I tackle with qualified experts on my show. There is so much food misinformation and disinformation out there, and it can feel impossible to know what's real and what's BS. On Bite Back, my goal is to help listeners create a pleasurable relationship with food, their body, and themselves, which in my opinion is the fundamental secret to good health. Listen to Bite Back wherever you get your podcasts.
Get your motor running. Head out on the highway, looking for adventure, and whatever comes our way. Yeah, darling, go make it happen. Take the world in a loving embrace. Fire all of the guns at once and explode into space. I like smoking lightning. Heavy metal thunder, racing with the wind, and the feeling that I'm under. Yeah, gotta go make it happen. Take the world in a loving embrace. Fire all of your guns at once and explode into space. Like a true nature's child, we were born, gonna be wild. We can climb so high, I never wanna die. Born to be wild. Born to be wild.
It was on this day in 1995 that Alanis Morissette's Jagged Little Pill was released. And that is as big an album as we've ever seen. Certainly in Canada, but even overall, a massive album. And I was tempted to play something from Jagged Little Pill this morning, but not to disrespect or throw any shade at our Alanis Morissette fans. How could you not on a Friday the 13th? Do you suffer from triskaidekaphobia, which is the fear of Friday the 13th? How could you not bring up images of Peter Fonda and Dennis Hopper cruising down the highway on their choppers, a little bit of Steppenwolf, and Born to be Wild on the day that motorcyclists finally get their due, right? If you've ever been to Port Dover on a Friday the 13th to celebrate all things motorcycle, you know that the closer you get to that little beach town on the shores of Lake Erie, the more that there are just motorcycles on the road. Four-wheeled vehicles may as well just stay the heck away. And we finally get a nicer, because I include myself in that motorcycling community. Although I think I might have to turn in my honorary membership. I finally last weekend got out for my first ride of the year. Finally. I'm not sure I qualify as a motorcyclist anymore. But anyway, we finally get our due. And for those of you who are making the trip today, please, as we say, keep the rubber side down, boys and girls. Play nice, have fun. I would love to be there with you, but I am going to be having my own bit of fun this evening at the Ken Sealing Museum on Homer Watson Boulevard at Taco Fest, the annual fundraiser in support of community support connections, Meals on Wheels, and more. You're welcome to join us there. Did I say it's Taco Fest? As in, eat the tacos, enjoy the beverages, i.e. the craft beer and more, and help raise some money for a very important organization in our community that does great work. I get to be a taco judge. Don't tell me how tough my life is, okay? Hey, Farwell, we want you to come out on Friday night, enjoy a craft beer, and eat some tacos. Okay, where do I sign up for that one? Mary is on the phone with us this morning. Good morning, Mary.
Good Good morning, Mike. I thought you were going down to Port Dover.
I wanted to, Mary, and it's a nice day. But I got to do this job. I wouldn't want to miss this conversation with you.
Oh.
And then I'm going to be at Taco Fest tonight, so...
Yeah. Well, anyway, happy Friday the 13th.
I should have worn my motorcycle jacket to work today.
Well, you could have.
I could have.
You could have, would have, should have.
Shoulda, woulda, coulda.
Yeah. I got married on Friday, April 13th.
You did? Which time?
What do you mean?
Well, you're on marriage number 3. I just remember. I want to know which. It's
why
okay.
Can't you forget that?
No. I just wondered which one. Like, is it the third time's the charm, the lucky one?
It's the third and the last.
Perfect.
Okay?
See, so the Friday the 13th is lucky for you. Then you found your forever mate.
It was.
Yes. Good.
And therefore, everybody else was scared, and I could get a venue for the reception.
Oh, Mary, now you're talking my language. Get a little lower rate. Have no problem booking.
I don't think it was a lower rate.
That's too bad.
All I can say is, usually you'll have to book at least a year ahead.
Why did you do it? Why did you marry on Friday the 13th, Mary?
Well, I don't know if you'll understand this, but as a Lutheran, they won't marry you in the Lenten season.
Oh.
So that was the first weekend after Lent.
So you gave up being engaged for Lent, and then you got right to the marriage afterwards, eh?
Something like that.
Something like that, okay.
Anyway, yes. I may call in later about something else, but I just, that was my thing. And, the 13th didn't hurt me. And John's son said, when we told him, he said, "Are we having a biker wedding?" And I said, "I wish we had. Been a lot cheaper."
Yes, it would have been a lot cheaper. There you go.
Have a good day.
Thanks, Mary. You too. So nice to hear from you today. Got married on Friday the 13th. How do you like that?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
All right, forget 13. We're going to go to 5, okay? Your Farwell Show 5 for this Friday morning, the 13th of June. Number 1, the voice of the Toronto Maple Leafs is going silent after next season. Joe Bowen announcing this morning that the 2025-26 campaign will be his last. Bowen has called more than 3,000 Leafs games over 40-plus years on the job. Number 2, Donald Trump. Oh, by the way, we're going to talk more about Bowen, your thoughts on him, and his pending retirement just after the 9:30 news this morning. Number 2 on your Farwell Show 5, Donald Trump calling Israel's deadly strikes on Iran's nuclear program and military sites, quote, excellent. The U.S. president made the comments in an interview with ABC News saying, and I quote, "They got hit about as hard as you're going to get hit, and there's more to come, a lot more." Israel launched a wave of strikes across Iran today, killing at least 2 top military officers in what appears to be the most significant attack the country has faced since its 1980s war with Iraq. Number 3, Ontario's Information and Privacy Commissioner says the provincial government broke its legal record-keeping obligations when it decided to open up protected greenbelt lands for housing. Commissioner Patricia Cosim's annual report says the number of Freedom of Information appeals her office received regarding the Greenbelt revealed concerning systemic issues. Cosim says in the report that staffers sometimes referred to the Greenbelt project as Special Project or GB or G, with references to G being next to impossible to find. In other words, you have freedom to the information, but how can you possibly find all the information? Tisk. Ford government. Number 4 on your Farwell Show 5 this morning, the region of Waterloo International Airport is celebrating its 75th anniversary with an open house tomorrow. The free event from 10 until 3 tomorrow will showcase the recent expansion and allow residents to explore the air terminal building. Instead of admission, attendees are encouraged to bring a non-perishable food item for the food bank. And number 5 on your Farwell Show 5 this morning, the Humane Society of Kitchener-Waterloo and Stratford-Perth is hosting a special Sunshine and Second Chances Adopt-a-thon this weekend, offering $50 off adoption fees for adult dogs. On Saturday and Sunday, both Humane Society centers will open their doors for a walk-in adoption event, making it easier than ever to welcome a new four-legged family member. With over 120 lovable animals in their care, this is the perfect opportunity to meet your future best friend. And that is your Farwell Show 5 for this Friday morning. We'll take a break. When we come back, I wonder if we can change the way we've long done things. Do you remember a few weeks ago now, we talked about this idea that somehow, some way, we feel the need to clean up our house before somebody comes to visit it because we don't want to see them, I guess, living in a normal home, having a normal life like the people who are probably coming to visit have. They left their house messy. They come to your house, it's magically clean. There's a new movement afoot to do away with this cleaning up before company comes over. We have to add another thing to the list, okay? We have to stop feeling bad about this. I'll tell you what this is coming up on the Mike Farwell Show. This is 570 News Radio and Rogers TV.
Don't wanna discuss it. Think it's time for a change. You may get disgusted. Start thinking that I'm strange. Kids are going to ground. Get some heavy rest. Never have to worry about what is worst or what is best. Get it. Oh, domino. All right. Romeo.
It is an all-request Friday here on the program. Every Friday we play the songs that you ask us to play, at least a little bit of them. We will fit in as many as we can. We have a lot of requests already in today. And I have to play catch up on some of the requests we couldn't get to even 2 weeks ago, because last week we were on location for Red Day in Uptown Waterloo, so a different show. Weren't able to play the requests then. But this one for my buddy Jeff, who runs Music Bingo. If you've ever been to one of Jeff's Music Bingo events, you know how much fun they are. And I got to do one of those during Farwell for Hire this year. And Jeff said, can I please hear Van Morrison's Domino? It's my favorite song. Excellent ear, Jeff. And a lot of fun playing Music Bingo with you. That is Jeff's request on this All Request Friday on the show today. I have a request as well. It goes hand in hand with this new movement. And when we talked about it on the show a few weeks ago, I don't think this movement's going to gain a whole lot of traction, but I hope it does. Because the movement is that people, when you have guests coming over, you don't scramble to clean up the house before they arrive. They just come over and enjoy the time with you, which is the reason they were coming over, and you let them see you and experience your home in its normal state. Because I guarantee the house that they left looks very much like the house or apartment that they are coming into when they get to your place. We live in our houses and apartments, and they should look lived in. I don't know, though, how ready you were to jump on this new trend, but maybe we can start another one associated with this trend right here on the show. This occurred to me last weekend when we were finishing off some Farwell for Hire duties and doing some deliveries, auction items that people had won, helping us fundraise last month. And more than one person's home that we got to on Saturday. We started around 11 from our place in Kitchener, so by the time we finished our route, it was probably a little after noon, but late morning, early afternoon. And we encountered more than one person who answered the door in their pajamas and were apologetic for it. And I'm here to tell you that you should not be. In fact, even got messages after the fact, oh, I'm so sorry that I wasn't dressed yet. It was a slow start to the day. Good. I want your Saturdays to be slow starting. Get up, enjoy that extra cup of coffee, do what you do, and do it at your own pace. Why must we feel the need to put on some sort of appearance for somebody that might come to the door? I'm glad that you answered the door the way that you were. What should we expect on a Saturday or a Sunday if we stop by your house unexpectedly? Are you going to be in a tuxedo or an evening gown? Of course not. There are no rules around this. And I really hope that we can move past this idea that we must appear a certain way before others, especially when they're coming to our place. You're coming to my place, you're getting me exactly the way I am at my place. Now, I confess to having been in this position before. I'll never forget one of the first times that this happened to me. It was a weekend. I'd been out doing yard work. I have the bummiest, ripped clothes for yard work. And I took a little break, went down to Tim's. And when I was going into Tim's, somebody recognized me and said hi. And it's always lovely. And I realized, oh my gosh, this person just saw me in ripped, dirty jeans and a backwards baseball cap. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what kind of impression am I making on people? This was many, many years ago. Tell you what, I am over it. More recently, it was a weekend morning. It might have been a Saturday or Sunday, doesn't matter. And I see this family pulling a little wagon down the street. And I think they're coming here to collect empties. And sure enough, they stopped. And I had like cases in the basement. I keep my empties very organized. My empties looked much more organized than I did. So I went downstairs. I loaded this kid's wagon up with like 9 cases. And as I was doing it, I was still in my pajamas. I don't care. You came to my house. If it's 11 o'clock in the morning, it doesn't matter to me. This is the way I was reading my papers. I was drinking my coffee. It was Saturday. And wouldn't you know, one of those little fellas, as we were passing over the beer cans, he says, "Are you Mike Farwell?" I said, "Yes. Yes, I am. Please tell people how well I dress on weekend mornings." I'm over it. I don't care anymore. This is who I am. You came to my house to collect empties. You came to my house to say hi. You get me. Don't matter what I'm wearing. Let's add it doesn't matter what you're wearing when somebody comes to the door to it doesn't matter what your house looks like when they come to visit, okay? Let's just drop the appearances and be ourselves. I'll take you as you are. This is the Mike Farwell Show. 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Okay, Jake, we get it. You have tastes in music that lean slightly toward the heavy side. I'm going to tell you, I'll remind you this every time. I used to start this show with Working Man by Rush. And a manager pulled me aside one day and said, "Do you think that's a little harsh to start the show with?" No, I love Rush. That, if I started the show with, imagine what they'd think of it. Wild Eyes by Parkway Drive, by request from Jake on this All Request Friday here on the program. It's a Friday the 13th. If you're riding, do take care on your way to Port Dover, and thanks for taking us with you on that drive. We've got you entertained and informed as you make your way wherever you're making your way today, or as you're just making your way through the workday. I'm going to get you an update from the 570 News Center, and then let's talk about the end of a broadcasting era. Joe Bowen says, "I'm hanging him up after next season." This is the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio. Well, the news is only about an hour old, but it's big news in the broadcasting world. And dare I say, it goes a little bit beyond that because the name Joe Bowen is synonymous with the Toronto Maple Leafs. And you know that I'm a huge Leafs fan, but even if you're not, you know the name Joe Bowen and what he has meant to the Leafs, the game of hockey, sports broadcasting in general. Simon Bennett, hey, he means a lot to sports broadcasting as well. He's our morning sports anchor here on 570 News Radio and joins us to talk a little more about Joe's big bombshell this morning. Simon, good morning.
Hey, good morning, Mike. Good to hear from you, buddy.
It's great to have you on the show to get perspective because I know lots of people have lots of thoughts about this, and you and I working in the same business, albeit in different areas from Joe Bowen. I mean, this one hits pretty hard, doesn't it?
I've been loading in clips from 93 the last hour and getting a little teary-eyed. I can't lie. Like, if you are a Leafs fan, or even if you aren't and just have heard Leafs moments since the 80s, and there have been a lot, he's seen them all. It's all been him. He's been the voice since the early 80s, and it's going to be weird to hear someone else call those games after next season. But, yeah, he is like an encyclopedia of the Maple Leafs since the 80s. Some very low times, some 6-1 losses in playoff game sevens, but some fun times too. Like, I was a teenager in 93 when they had that renaissance and they went to the Final Four. And that was an incredible spring, summer in Toronto where everybody got so excited behind them. The Borshevsky overtime goal, Doug Gilmour wraparound against St. Louis, almost beating the Kings. I thought the Leafs would actually won the cup if they had faced Montreal that year. But it was like that big renaissance year, and his calls were all over it. Also, a sound engineer's nightmare. Checking Joe Bowen. Good luck.
They would have, by the way. Leafs won the Stanley Cup that year if it hadn't been for the high stick that Kerry Fraser didn't call. But not that I'm hanging on to that. And you talk about loading those clips. I think it was your 8:45 sportscast. You played one of my all-time favorites. Bless you, boys. I've never been prouder than I am of you tonight in the win over the Ottawa Senators back in the day.
Oh yeah, like the other one I thought about was when Kessel was on the Maple Leafs. Thank you, Kessel, making fun of Bruins fans. Austin Matthews, remember his first game, 4 goals. I was thinking about that, and the only thing missing is a Stanley Cup call, so it has to be next year. Well, like it should be a law. Next year they win, right?
That's the thing that struck me. I mean, as much as all of these memories come flooding back, Simon, Joe even says it in his post on social media, right? Let's hope next season is the one before I am done. Just imagine 3,800 games he will have passed by the time next season is finished, 40 plus years, and never a Stanley Cup game to call. It's almost unfair.
It's not fair. And I think about teams that went with long droughts without a cup and finally got it. Like the LA Kings, their longtime radio voice, whose name escapes me, I've gone blank, wasn't doing them, but because it was like national radio and all that when they won their first cup, but they have a special call of him doing it that was put on a DVD somewhere. Like, maybe if they do win in like 5 years, they'll just bring him back like at 85 or something, and and he'll just do it. But yeah, it's the only thing he hasn't done. Everything else he has called. He's called so many big moments. Just needs a cup. That's it.
Play-by-play broadcasters can be polarizing, Simon. You and I both know that, and as I said at the outset, even if you're not a Leafs fan, you know the name Joe Bowen, you know how he sounds, you know what he represents. One of the things I've always loved about him is that he's made no apologies about being the fan that he is.
I think you know what you get with him. And I mean, if you listen to him and Jim Ralph on the call in recent years, I mean, yeah, the Leafs call. But also, I don't think they're afraid to criticize either. Like, they're not, I mean, they're going to be homers. That's their job. They work for the team. But like, there are some calls in those games against Florida in recent weeks where they didn't hold back, and that's good too. I mean, he's been around. He's seen so much. I mean, you like to think nothing's worse than the 80s for the Maple Leafs, but he saw some of that too. But you know what you're getting with the Leafs with those calls, right? He is a Leafs booster, and he's proud of it.
So now the question begs, through next season, I mean, it's going to be a season-long farewell, and then, I mean, how would you like to be the next guy, Simon?
Oh, I don't even know. You can imagine. I got to call my buddy Marley's voice, Todd Crocker, see if he's getting his demo ready. I don't know. I can't even imagine being the next voice. Like, that's such a it's happening. There's going to be a new voice replacing Sam Rosen with the Rangers because he's stepping down. There's the Dan Dunleavy, who's worked in the GTA and in Southern Ontario. He's the new Sabres guy. Had to fill Rick Jenneret's shoes. It can be done. Just good luck. And I mean, I hope whoever gets the job gets time to get his feet wet a bit and they don't just rush to a rash decision to get the next guy or the next guy. You know what I mean? Like, it's big shoes to fill, but there are plenty of talented voices out there.
There certainly are. And it will make next season all that much more fun, at least for Leafs fans like us. Simon, I know how busy you are this morning. Thanks a ton for making time for the show.
Always a pleasure. Have a great weekend. Happy Father's Day.
You as well, my friend. Take care. Simon Bennett is a sportscaster with 570 News Radio. You hear him doing the morning sports when you're listening to All News Mornings with Christine Clark and Mark Douglas. He joins us to talk about the retirement of one Mr. Joe Bowen. He announced on social media this morning that the 2025-26 season will be his last behind the microphone. I have been totally blessed, Bowen writes, to be able to do my dream job for this long, eclipsing the career of my idol, Foster Hewitt. Your support and interaction has been what has made this, quote, job so wonderful. You are the most loyal and demonstrative fans on the face of the earth. I cannot thank you enough. I sincerely hope that this will be the one before I am done season for the Leafs as they chase that elusive cup. 44 years, 0 Stanley Cups, not even an appearance in the Cup final. For that, I feel for Joe Bowen. Beyond that, my gosh, what a run. Thoughts on the news we got just this morning? Love them or lump them. Everybody knows Joe Bowen. Would love to hear your thoughts and reflections on the career that is almost now done. 519-570-2545, star 570, and 1-800-570-5715. This is the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV.
I hope whoever gets the job gets time to get his feet wet a bit and they don't just rush to a rash decision to get the next guy or the next guy. It's big shoes to fill, but there are plenty of talented voices out there.
That is, what is going on today? Is it just Friday the 13th? Like, honestly, could there... That is Simon Bennett, our morning sports anchor on 570 News Radio. You hear Simon giving us the updates during All News Mornings with Christine Clark and Mark Douglas. Simon joins us to talk about the looming retirement, the last season ahead for one Mr. Joe Bowen. Joe Bowen, the voice of the Toronto Maple Leafs, announced this morning that after 44 years, he has decided that the next season will be his last. Love 'em, lump 'em. These figures, play-by-play broadcasters, can be polarizing figures, but it's hard to imagine another voice that you heard calling Leafs games. I mean, 44 years. That pretty much makes up most of the life for most of us. 519-570-2545. Star 570 and 1-800-570-5715. In all of my years, I've never had the opportunity to work alongside or talk directly to Joe Bowen. And that's probably more on me than it is on anything else. When I was in college, we had to do a work placement during our final year to get out there and prepare ourselves for a future in broadcasting. And my work placement, I was so lucky to do it. I was on the production truck, the truck as we call it, that the mobile production vehicle to produce Hockey Night in Canada games at Maple Leaf Gardens, no less. What a treat that was for me, an old Toronto Maple Leafs fan. And so for 5 consecutive Saturdays, so I could put in my 8 hours and 40 hours for my work placement, I went down to Toronto to be a part of that production team to get ready for Hockey Night in Canada. It was an unreal experience. I got to do all kinds of different things, including be up in the press row area. And I remember specifically Harry Neal was quite particular about the Diet Coke and ice he had with him to drink. And then right next to him, Joe Bowen, who never made any bones, pun intended, because his nickname's Bonesy, never made any bones about the fact that he was a Leafs fan as well as the broadcaster. He is far more enthusiastic. And sure, he was ready to criticize when criticism was warranted. But Joe Bowen, as over the top as they come as play-by-play guys, and I don't know what we're going to do for AM in the AM our little segment here on the show after next season. But we'll worry about that when the time comes, because that's going to be the time that somebody else is thinking of filling Joe Bowen's shoes. Let's go to the phones. Mike, good morning.
Good morning, Mikey.
Oh, Mikey, what are we going to do, buddy?
I know. I'm in total shock over here. But, how many calls, Mikey, have we listened to? And we said, Mikey's losing his mind again. The calls, and I've had calls where I've played over and over just to hear him lose his mind. And it's been great, but it will be a season of we should all listen on radio as much as we can next year. And, it'll be sad, but maybe we could get you and fly in there, Mikey, and you get to take the job.
I could never do it. No way.
I know. And Simon's right. I don't know who you get to fill his shoes, but that's got to be the biggest shoes you can ever fill, wouldn't you think?
I would think so.
Well, we're going to enjoy it next year, Mikey, and hopefully they bring the cup home for him. Wouldn't that be a classic, though, they bring the cup home as Joe retires?
Well, it'd be amazing. Let's do it.
You do it, Mikey. Take care, bud.
All right, Mike, appreciate the call. Listen, I love Hockey Night in Kitchener so much. I don't know there's enough money in the world. I mean, maybe for one game, but that'd be it. Jersey Bill, good morning.
Yeah, and I just looked up Mr. Bowen's career, and it turns out that he spent his earlier years doing, I guess, Ontario Hockey League. I think he might have done the Quebec League as well. So,
the Sudbury Wolves, Billy. The Sudbury Wolves, they have a banner hung to him up there at the Sudbury Arena.
Well, you know what? If instead of one of those player broadcasters, if they're looking at somebody who has a lot of experience in the calling Ontario hockey games, that I think you certainly could be in the running. I wouldn't be surprised. I don't know. I see. I've always found it interesting the way the two networks seem to share responsibilities. So he called some games for TSN and some for Sportsnet. So I don't know whether he was directly involved with Rogers, but as I say, there may be time for you to look for bigger and better things. I'd be sorry to lose you out of Kitchener, but that would be great for you.
Billy, I appreciate the call and the support, thinking that I could do such a job. It's going to be a fierce competition. There is no question about that. And since Billy brought up Joe's history in the Ontario Hockey League, I'll just share with you, because my antennae was raised this past season. Joe's son, David, currently does the games in Sudbury, just where Dad used to do them. And there was a pretty nice feature about the two Bowens I believe it was in the Toronto Star this past season. So some pretty good pub for the younger Bowen. And on the next gen Leafs game this past season, who got called to be the broadcaster for that? One Mr. David Bowen. Were they grooming him for something? Could it be Bowen to Bowen in the broadcast booth in Toronto? I'm just putting it out there for consideration. This is the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. The show yesterday when we were talking about our favorite albums of all time, and he had U2's The Joshua Tree, and then asked during that segment, hey, can I make a request for All Request Friday tomorrow? Yes, Sam, you can. You did, and you get Where the Streets Have No Name on this All Request Friday. I said when we talked about it yesterday that this might be the best opening track to an album ever. And then one of our later callers, forgive me, I'm forgetting the name, but said, what about Bob O'Reilly by The Who? Okay, that's another good one. It's another good one for sure. But I've always enjoyed this as an opening track to an album. By request for Sam today. Let's go back to the phones, talk more about Joe Bowen. Bob, good morning.
I know what you mean about, I'm not a Leaf fan, but I know what you mean about Joe Bowen. It's the same as Tom and Jerry for the Blue Jays. It's just not the same on the radio.
Yeah, you know what? That's a really good example, Bob. Somebody else mentioned that during or in an email, I think it was. But yeah, when Tom and Jerry were done, it was a different day for sure.
Yep. And you could be right about it because there's Ben Shulman and Dan Shulman.
Exactly. That's what makes me even more curious about that being a possibility.
Have a good day, Mike.
Thanks, Bob. You too. Appreciate it. Jim sends an email to Mike at 570news.com. Joe Bowen and Paul Morris. Oh, my gosh, Paul Morris. You remember, he was one of the classic arena announcers. I can still hear his voice in my head. He was the in-arena announcer at the old Maple Leaf Gardens. And yes, two Leafs icons, says Jim. And Ernie writes to Mike at 570news.com. I think I'm probably going to hate the new guy for no apparent reason. Oh, and there's the email. When Jerry retired from doing the Jays radio, it was not the same. I thoroughly enjoyed listening to him do the Jays play-by-play. So, yeah, it is an acquired taste. And after 44 years, whether it's David Bowen, Joe's son, or not, the next guy coming in has got a very tall order, as Joe Bowen has announced, that after 44 years as the voice of the Toronto Maple Leafs, next season will be his last. So he is hoping that it's the one before he is done, a Stanley Cup for the Toronto Maple Leafs. 3,800 games, nary a Stanley Cup game for Joe Bowen to call. Yet, he's got one more season to go. I'm going to get you to the 570 News Center for an update. And then let's talk Canada Post. The feds would like to see the postal workers vote on the latest contract offer. Should they? This is the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. The federal government is asking unionized employees with Canada Post to vote directly on the latest offers from the Crown Corporation. It's not the way business is usually done in labor negotiations, but that's what the feds would like to see happen. Ian Lee is an associate professor of management at the Sprott School of Business, Carleton University, joins us to talk about it. Ian, good morning.
Good morning, Mike.
Does this make sense to you, the feds asking that employees vote directly on the latest offer?
Yes, it does. In fact, I think it was inevitable. It's inevitable because CUPW has stated there is no compromise whatsoever. They're not going to accept the offer. Multiple offers have been put forward. The management stated there's no alternative because they're being bailed out by the Government of Canada, which, of course, the Government of Canada knows. Remember, this was a cabinet decision. The Minister of Labour, who is part of the Carney cabinet, instructed the Labour Board to command or demand or compel a vote. The Government of Canada is acutely aware of the audited annual reports that I've written about, that the negotiator, the labor mediator, wrote about a month or two ago, and he said Canada Post is insolvent, echoing what I've been saying for several years. They're very aware of this, and so they're now at the crisis point. They're at the tipping point, and so they were not going forward. There was a stalemate, and so they realized that the only way to go forward, the first step, is to order a vote. This may not end the situation, because if CUPW is successful at advising, convincing its members to vote no, then the stalemate continues and the government will have to do something else.
What else could be done here, Ian?
I've been arguing, I've done two reports on Canada Post based exclusively on the data in the audited annual reports. I mention this yet again because I get people writing me saying, well, this is your opinion. None of the data in any of my reports is my opinion. Every data point comes from the audited annual reports of the auditors. The reports are tabled in Parliament. And the data shows that Canada Post is in steep decline. People don't write letters anymore. Everybody knows that. Most people don't send invoices in the mail anymore. A few do, but most don't. Most people do their banking online, and so on and so on. Parcel Post, they're losing market share for a completely different reason, which is they're not competitive. And they're now losing money that's becoming significant. They've lost money for 5 years in a row. They lost $1.5 billion this year. Next year, it'll probably be $2 or maybe even $3 billion because the situation becomes worse. And so, to your question, I have argued consistently that I could not see a solution, a negotiated settlement between CUPW and the management. Therefore, I think it's inevitably going to require the government of Canada to introduce a bill in Parliament that will impose not just a settlement. We're not talking, the language is always about settlement as if there's some magical settlement solution that will solve the problem. There is no magic bullet. There is no magic solution. They have lost 65% of their business in letters, 50% of their business in parcels. Any other business listening, anybody listening, imagine if we lost 65% of all of our students, just boom, disappear, or University of Toronto, or any university in Ontario. They would be in a existential crisis because the revenues of those students would have vanished. That's what's happened to Canada Post. So they have to impose a restructuring, and that will require a bill introduced in Parliament. And I'm not trying to suggest it'll be easy. It'll get ugly. It'll be very ugly. But so the government, as I keep saying, they have two very ugly choices. Impose a restructuring that's going to radically downsize the post office because there isn't enough business to support 65,000 people. The auditors, it's in the audited annual report, has said this. The current structure does not support 65,000 people. And the alternative, and I don't think the government's going to go down that road, is to say, well, we'll just keep bailing it out every year. We'll just give them another $1 billion or $2 billion or $3 billion a year to create what I call a fake post office, not because they're being dishonest, but where they come to work every day and pretend to deliver mail that nobody is sending anymore. That's what I mean by a fake post office. So that's why I think the government, within 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, is going to have to introduce a restructuring bill in Parliament. They may not call it a restructuring bill, but that's what it will be.
What has prevented us from getting there, Ian, to this restructuring bill? Is it just because of how messy and or difficult it would be?
In part, but I'm not partisan. I don't belong to any political party. I do not donate money to any political party. I do not allow lawn signs on my lawn in any federal or provincial or municipal election. I say that because I'm now going to be very critical of Mr. Trudeau's government. He created a blue ribbon panel, and he promised to in the 2015 when he ran for election and was elected the first time, and it was created. I was invited to testify, and I did, and I put forward a bunch of recommendations based on the audited annual reports. I said you got to end mandatory mail delivery to every household in Canada 5 days a week. They rejected that completely. I said you got to end home delivery to the 25% of Canadians that have home delivery. You got to do a complete restructuring. And the Trudeau government went down and I said they got to pivot to parcels. The Trudeau government did exactly the opposite. What they did was they canceled the Canada Post decision to end home delivery to the 25% of Canadians who still had it, and they told the former CEO who had a plan to pivot to email, removed him. They sent him home. He resigned. And they brought in somebody else and said, now just stick to your knitting and focus on mail, which was declining then. It was collapsing then. So there was a deliberate policy decision for the last 9 years to ignore and deny these empirical, factual numbers expressed in the audited annual report every year that showed that Canada Post was in steep decline. So they squandered 10 years of opportunity when they could have turned around the post office with massive layoffs. They could have done it through attrition and downsized. Since they've lost 2/3 of their business, Canada Post has stayed the same in headcount. In other words, their business has declined by 2/3. Headcount has not declined. That's just amazing. I mean, normally if your business, you lose half your business, you shed employees through attrition. You don't hire people when they leave or quit or whatever, retire. They continued hiring as if they were still an organization delivering 5.5 billion letters a year, even though every year they were delivering less and less and less and less and less mail. They're down to 2 billion, and I believe next year they'll be down into the teens of pieces of letters. So they denied it. We must be honest and blame the Trudeau government because there was a plan. It was published in the 2013 and 14 annual reports. It's on the record. Anybody can look it up. These are not secret reports. They're public, where they had a plan to pivot to email. And the Trudeau government rescinded that and told them to drop that and to focus on letter mail. They even fired the CEO or asked the CEO to resign, and they replaced him with somebody else, and they canceled the early attempts to start to restructure the post office. And that was the Trudeau government, and Dominique LeBlanc was the minister responsible for Canada Post at the time. And they rejected these various options of restructuring to deal with a rapidly changing reality in Canada, which is that everybody is going to digital everything. Digital payments, digital banking, digital online, digital grading. Universities are digitized, completely digitized. The hospitals are digitizing. Government's completely digitized. And so, you know, this is just the tail end of the old analog, the old boomer economy of paper-based. You know, you put things in letters in envelopes. And there's still a small number, I realize, of, I call them the elderly analog boomers, who insist on using mail. My late mother, I was very close to her, looked after her. But she would not get a computer, wouldn't get a smartphone, and she insisted her old age pension check be mailed to her. Well, 95% of all the checks in Canada are now deposited electronically. And so there's a small number of people still using it, but it's very small, and it declines year by year because the older generation are passing on, as we all know. And so this decline is not going to stop today. CUPW is actually saying, no, yes, they've gone down a little bit, but it's not really a crisis, and it's not going to get worse. It's getting worse every year as the elderly pass on, and the few remaining businesses that still use the post office for mailing invoices switch more and more to digital invoicing. And, you know, during this last postal strike, all kinds of companies were sending out letters saying, if you're getting your invoice by mail, please switch to digital. So, you know, I predict that physical mail is going to vanish within 10 years from now. There'll be someday, you know, not too far from now, when young people will say, what's a letter? Granddad, what's a letter? What's a post office box? What's a community post office box? I don't understand what this is. They will vanish, just like Blockbuster Video. Nobody goes to the video store anymore. They're all gone. They're dead. You stream your videos. Nobody gets milk delivered to the door anymore. You know, look at the department stores that are all going down like 10 pence. People shop differently. And we communicate differently. Everyone's got a smartphone, and I do have the numbers from CRTC, by the way. And it's astonishing. Even older people are using smartphones. And we're not going back to the 50s or the 60s or the 70s or the 80s, you know, with physical mail. That world is gone behind us. We're in the digital economy. And CUPW, understandably, you know, it's very difficult to change. And they're in a physical mail business. Their business model is not the model that is needed for this new economy. And to pivot to parcels and e-commerce, of which there is a huge market, requires a very, very different business model that will involve working on the weekends and part-time workers. And CUPW is adamantly, completely, and totally opposed.
Ian, always great to get your perspective. Thank you for joining the show.
My pleasure, Mike. Thank you.
Ian Lee is an associate professor of management at the Sprott School of Business, Carleton University. He always puts it plainly. That's why we appreciate his perspective on the show. And just to take you back to an email I got yesterday from our friend Tony, when it was made news that Ottawa would like Canada Post employees to vote on this latest contract. It's time, Tony says, for Canada Post to declare bankruptcy and restructure. Kind of sounds like what Ian just said. There are more efficient ways to provide these services. Are there? Can we blow it up and start over again? Let me know your thoughts on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV.
I have argued consistently that I could not see a solution or negotiated settlement between CUPW and the management. Therefore, I think it's inevitably going to require the Government of Canada to introduce a bill in Parliament that will impose not just a settlement. There is no magic bullet. There is no magic solution.
Ian Lee is an associate professor in the School of Management at the Sprott School of Business, Carleton University. Joins us to talk about the federal government's hopes that Canada Post employees will vote directly on the latest offer. Of course, the union can try to influence those employees and get them to vote a certain way. And then this stalemate will just carry on and on and on. And I can't help but think about what Ian was saying, insisting it was in a nonpartisan way. But the solution was before the previous Liberal government, and it chose not to. And to essentially take action on that solution. And I can't help but think it might be connected to the incredible growth in the federal civil service under Justin Trudeau in this country, as if it was his job to create excellent paying jobs with excellent benefits within our federal government as part of his mandate. So we can keep these federal jobs, 65,000 of them, when the need for the mail is declining. Let's go to the phones. Dave, good morning.
Good morning, Mike. I'll let you help me with what they called it. But over 20 years ago, I believe, Canada Post had an electronic mail system. I was getting all my bills through it. And then suddenly, well, not suddenly, but about 10 years ago, they decided to do away with it. And I had to log on, and they were going to keep my electronic mail for a short period of time, like 6 months, and they wanted you to eliminate it and say what was there. And that I did. And now that Canada Post electronic mail system is gone. So I'm fed up with it. And have a great day, Mike.
Thanks, Dave. You too. I appreciate the call. And I think that's the general sentiment today, isn't it? We're getting a little fed up. First, there was the disruption at Christmas time, and now we're into this other period, this next period, let's say, of uncertainty where, we're not going to do overtime, et cetera. And these negotiations, which don't seem to be negotiating a whole lot, right? There just seems to be at a stalemate, but they kind of hang around in the background, and we wonder, well, what's next? Will the mail stop? And if you're a business person that relies on the mail service, I don't know what that's like for you and the stresses that it can add to your day. But it's an incredibly frustrating position to be in with currently no end in sight. This is the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Bit of George Michael and Freedom 90 by request for Nathan on this All Request Friday. Let's go back to the phones, talk more about Canada Post. Jim, good morning.
Hey, good morning, Mike. How are you this morning?
Good, thank you.
Good. I think both parties at this negotiating table, and I'm not sure if there's a mediator already put in place, but I think the union needs to be looking at who's representing them, and then likewise for the government. And maybe we need some new parties at the head table to come together. It looks like this is maybe just nothing more than a tit-tat fight now. And unfortunately, we're the ones suffering for it. And my suggestion for them is to revert is, I don't know who's checking the mail daily anymore, maybe a small percentage. Let's go to weekly or maybe twice a week delivery service. Then you have staff maybe doing 2 coverage areas. You can maintain some staff, lose some part-time staff, and then you're doing 2 coverage areas, and your mail might come every 2 to 3 days. Just my thoughts on it. But take care, Mike.
Thanks, Jim. You too. I think those are great suggestions across the board. Who knows if these two sides have been at this for so long in various ways, either in front of the scenes or the microphones and in public that we hear about, and behind the scenes trying to keep things going, that it might just be picking at nits right now. And I am here for the idea of the end of daily mail delivery. For goodness sake, I don't think we need it that frequently. But this is where we're at. And the frustration that Jim says, instead of us being frustrated watching and listening to all of this, maybe we can get an effective solution instead. An update from the 570 News Center, and then in the next 30 minutes, the local bar that's catering to you and your dog, and checking in with Waterloo Region sports and entertainment with WRSE Weekly on the Mike Farwell Show. 570 News Radio and Rogers TV.
For the blues, he's still inside his first pair of shoes. He's just a baby. Give that boy some freedom, let him move around. Don't get in his way, you'll only bring him down. Mama, won't you let him play some rock and roll. Yeah. Let him play some rock and roll.
By request for Ivan on the show today, a little bit of Doucette and Mama. Let him play. Play they did, the Kitchener Panthers, your Kitchener Panthers last night against the league-leading Welland Jackfish. And I think that the Panthers' X account said it best in its final post of the night. Final score, pain. We'll just leave the final score out of it as we welcome Shanif Hirani, the general manager of the Kitchener Panthers, to the show this morning. Good morning, Shanif.
Morning, Mike. How are you?
I'm all right, thanks. How are you?
I'm doing good.
Good. I mean, some days are diamonds, some days are duds, is something that I like to say. And I think you probably got a pretty good glimpse last night as to why the Welland Jackfish are the top team in the IBL.
Yes. Yes, we did. It was a close game at the start, and then a few errors, and things sort of unraveled for us quickly. But the good thing about our schedule is that we play again today, so we can put that one behind us.
Does this give you a good idea, Shanif, as you come into this role and Waterloo Region Sports and Entertainment, really continues to expand that umbrella, Titans, Panthers, and in this Panthers role now, you as GM, does this give you an idea of where you need to be if you want to be best in the league?
It does. These are the teams that we want to eventually surpass. So seeing where they are, where we are, and how we can make improvements is exactly what we're looking for.
So how do you go about making those improvements tonight when you're right back on the field?
So tonight we have Evan Elliott starting for us. He's been great for us all season, kept us in all the games that he's thrown. And our lineup knows that yesterday was a different day. They'll have to bounce back today. They know they can do it. They've been swinging the bats really well. So we'll just take it as a new day.
3 straight road games for you. Tonight you're in London. Sunday you're at Arnold Anderson Stadium in Brantford. And then on the road at Christie Pitts, one of my favorite diamonds in this league, in Toronto on Wednesday. So not back home until next Thursday. Is it okay to have a little 3-game road trip in here after a tough loss last night?
It is. We've actually performed pretty well on the road, so we're looking forward to it. But of course, we want to get back home next week. We have 3 home games next week. We play Thursday against Hamilton, Saturday at 7 p.m. against Hamilton, and then Sunday afternoon against Guelph. So we have lots of games coming up. So we're ready to get after it.
And, you're sitting here in a tie for 6th, but really after Welland, there's a big cluster. Only 2.5 games are you behind London, the team you're facing tonight. So what do how do you evaluate the Panthers' prospects at this point of the season, 11 games in?
Of course, we want to be at the top of the league, but I think I like a lot of the things that I've seen so far. We've shown a lot of potential. It's just the consistency. We have a young team, so we're still learning a lot about ourselves and about how we want to play. But if we can become a little more consistent, I do like our chances.
What does it take to build that consistency?
Repetition, as much as we can, whether that's practice, in-game repetition, just getting all of our guys as much experience as possible, because it's still early. It's only June. And we don't want to be playing our best baseball in June. We want to be playing our best baseball in August.
How important was it for you, Shanif, to take that home and home with the Guelph Royals last weekend, to give yourself just a little bit of separation there in the standings?
That was awesome. That was very big for our guys. Guelph's a good team. They were in the championship last year and brought back almost the entire same roster that they had last year with a few additions. So that was a great confidence builder for us and something we can look to build on.
How have the fans been embracing this year's edition of the Kitchener Panthers?
They've been great. We've been seeing bigger crowds now that the weather's warming up, and they seem to be buying into our new roster. I know we have a lot of new faces, but they've been great and showing all their support.
What makes it special, having a team with 106 years of history in the community?
It's something extremely unique. I mean, I've been around baseball my whole life, and I haven't seen a team or been a part of a team that's been around for this long and has this much history. So it's something pretty special, and we want to honor that history and then continue to build on it. And actually, speaking of history, I do want to mention that our home game next Thursday, the Baseball Hall of Fame will be attending our game, the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame. So we'll have a bunch of different artifacts on display. They'll be handing out passes to the first 50 fans that arrive to the game. And also throughout the game, there'll be Hall of Fame trivia and chances to win prizes as well.
That is super cool, making the trip from St. Mary's over here to Kitchener. And how about that Jose Bautista just enshrined in the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame?
Amazing. Well-deserved. Someone I definitely grew up watching and was one of my favorite players at the time. So it was great to see that happen.
Do you remember where you were, Shanif, on the bat flip night?
I was actually at the game.
No way.
I was sitting in left field, and he hit the ball, I would say, 4 rows above my head.
Unreal. And the ball may have gone 4 rows above your head. The bat, I think, almost got up to the 500 level that night.
It did. It was amazing. I've been to a fair amount of Jays games in my life, and I've never heard the building or felt the building shake like that when he hit that home run.
Yeah, there was something special. I heard him say that in his induction, or maybe it was an interview that I read, but he said it felt as though the stadium was actually shaking or trembling when he hit that home run.
It was amazing. It was a great experience, and we're looking to bring that to Jack Couch.
Absolutely. Let's bring it to Jack Couch. You're back next Thursday versus Hamilton, and the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame will be there. Terrific stuff. Good luck on the weekend on the 3-game road trip ahead, Shanif.
Thank you.
Shanif Hirani is the general manager of the Kitchener Panthers. I'll just say it. I didn't want to hurt Shanif's ears, but it was a how do you put this? It was a 23-2 drubbing last night at the hands of the Welland Jackfish. Look, Welland is the cream of the crop in intercounty baseball this year. But after that, it's pretty crowded. The Panthers are only 2.5 games back of the London Majors, the team they face tonight in London. Then it's off to Brantford on Sunday, in Toronto to play the Maple Leafs, not those Maple Leafs, the intercounty baseball Maple Leafs on Wednesday. And your next chance to catch the Panthers on their home field at Jack Couch Park is next Thursday with the Hamilton Cardinals in town. And as you heard Shanif just say, the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame will be in attendance. The Panthers heading into this weekend with a 5-6 record. The Jackfish, thanks to their 23-2 win last night, improved to 11-1 on the season. Panthers will be looking to get back on the winning track tonight in London. WRSE, Waterloo Region Sports and Entertainment Weekly, is here on the Mike Farwell Show every Friday morning at 10:30. We'll take a break. When we come back, a local bar has introduced a dog-friendly menu. It's a bar. That means there's doggy beer, too. We'll tell you about it coming up on the Mike Farwell Show. 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Little bit of Lady Luck by the Mudmen by request for Chris on this Friday the 13th. Is that why maybe we're looking for a little bit of luck? I don't know. But if you would like to dine with your four-legged furry companion, you are most certainly in luck, because you can do that now thanks to our charcoal group of restaurants. Megan Stover is the VP of People and Culture there and joins the show this morning. Good morning, Megan.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much for making the time. First of all, dog person here, love my little Rosie, the pandemic pup, and love this idea of the bon appetit, pun on bon appetit en français, bon appetit. Tell me more about this special menu at the Charcoal Group of restaurants.
Well, we've had dog-friendly patios for a number of years now. They really did come along the lines of COVID, similar to a lot of friends that got pets for themselves during the lockdowns. So we saw a lot of guests coming out during that time to dine on the patios and wanting to bring their pups out. So we made a puppy-friendly patio protocol, and then, felt this year that it was time for us to start offering something for our four-legged furry friends.
So what do they get on offer now?
Well, we actually were approached by a local Ontario company that produced a product called the Barking Brew, and they were looking to sell their product to us to sell to our guests that were bringing their dogs out to the patio. And so it was really the inspiration behind the food menu that we have as well to accompany it. So we've got a whole program now, drinks and
So a Barking Brew. Look, Megan, even before Rosie became an important part of our lives at home, I've seen people give their pups, the occasional drink of beer. I've seen some videos, and while humorous, I kind of feel bad for the dog. I don't think they should be having any alcohol. What is this doggy brew all about?
Well, even though it is called Barking Brew, it is not a beer.
Okay,
I will
good.
say we have it listed as a Barking. It's called Barking Brew. It is 0%, but technically it is made of Angus beef bones, a beef bone broth. They are Canadian sourced, locally farmed beef bones. So it is a beef broth type product that's called Barking Brew. So, obviously a place called Beertown, it seems like a good alignment for them to reach out to us. And we tested it out with some of our team's dogs, and the feedback was really positive. So we felt really good about bringing it onto our offering here at Beertown.
I love it. You got to do that market research, right?
We do. Yes, absolutely.
So while we're enjoying one of the many beers on tap and our furry little friend is enjoying a Barking Brew, then it comes time to eat a little bit of something. I love me some fish tacos from Beertown. I will not tell a lie. What will be available for our furry friends?
Well, we have a selection that our owners can choose from. So there's a grilled chicken breast, there's a turkey patty, we have a beef patty, we've got brown rice, and then we've got some vegetables too. We have to keep it healthy with some carrots and celery sticks as well. They are all unseasoned, which is obviously very important to us. There's no garlic, no pepper, no salt, so it is safe for our four-legged friends.
I think it's fantastic. So you can take your canine companion with you when you visit Charcoal Group and the Beertown restaurants. How has it been received since you started doing this, Megan?
So this is our first patio season with both the Barking Brew and the Bon Appetit menu, and honestly, it has been so well received. We're just obviously getting the word out now that the weather has finally changed, and the reception has been wonderful. Our guests with pets, with their dogs, have been really, really positive about it, often ordering more than one of the dishes. All of the items that I mentioned earlier are individually portioned and individually priced so that you can kind of make your own meal depending on, the dog and what they like to enjoy. And we do have some guests that we know, have their dogs on a raw food diet. So if you, typically the items on the menu do come cooked, but if your dog is on a raw food diet, we're happy to serve it that way as well, if that's the preference.
Fantastic. We are big fans of what you do at Beertown, and now we will be bringing Rosie with us the next time we visit. Megan, thank you for this. Appreciate your time today.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Megan Stover is the VP of People and Culture at the Charcoal Group of restaurants. There is a Bon Appetit menu. Your canine companion can enjoy time on the patio with you at Beertown, and they can get a little Barking Brew while you enjoy an adult one. This is the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. an all request Friday on the program, and Greg wanted to hear a little bit of Boston and Don't Look Back on All Request Friday. Your wish is our command. I also want to let you know about something that's coming up this weekend in Elmira. They celebrate Woolwich Pride. Sherry DeCare is the co-chair for Woolwich Pride and joins us to talk about it. What can we expect, Sherry, at Saturday's event?
Well, you can expect entertainment. Well, first of all, it's free to everybody. It's donation only. We do a lot of fundraising and work all year round so that we can make it free to everyone to take away any obstacles that might be there for people that want to attend our event in Woolwich. But we have a great entertainment lineup this year, and we've introduced this year for the first time, we'll be having a drag queen MC and drag queen story time. We've got jugglers, and again, we're welcoming the Waterloo Wellington Rainbow Chorus Choir, who are just amazing. And if you've ever had the opportunity to hear them, you'll know what I'm talking about.
So you mentioned this is all free, great entertainment. Where and when does it take place?
It's on Saturday, June 14th at Gibson Park from 1 to 4 in Elmira.
And this is open to everyone, all ages?
Exactly. It's really geared towards family and kids. In our area, we have a lot of those, and we thought it was a great way to present pride in this community. But anybody is welcome, and there's something for everybody.
Why is it important to present pride in your community, Sherry?
Well, being a smaller community, we really want to take inclusivity and visibility seriously for everyone. We think that in smaller communities, they can't see that where they live. They can see that in Toronto, they could see that in Kitchener-Waterloo, but not necessarily right here in Woolwich. So we felt strongly about having something here that the kids here can look to and see, and everyone in this community can see and be proud of and feel inclusive.
I remember talking about this on the year of the inaugural Pride event in Woolwich. Have you noticed a change over the years now that you're heading into year 3?
I think there's been a change, as in Woolwich Pride and the committee that we have. We have a great, amazing group of volunteers as well. The tentacles of what we're doing, I can see impact. Recently, I was asked to speak at a high school. You know, we also have been asked, we send packages to all the public schools in town with sort of pride swag and information. So I think the message is getting out there and people see us. And I think just the visibility alone has impact.
We'll look forward to a great afternoon Saturday at Gibson Park in Elmira. Sherry, thank you very much for this.
Awesome. Thanks so much for the call. I appreciate it.
Sherry DeCare is the co-chair for Woolwich Pride. It takes place at Gibson Park in Elmira tomorrow, celebrating, of course, June, which is Pride Month. We've got an update from the 570 News Center coming up, and then our Friday 4 roundtable gathers to discuss the week's big stories. This is the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV.
1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. All right. Got to know how to hold it. Like Bonnie Maroney.
Didn't Wilson Pickett know that it's the Friday 4? He just 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. I'm waiting. That's okay. 3 guests, 1 host. It's really like the Friday 3.5, but very pleased to be joined on the weekly roundtable by Tom Galloway, former regional Waterloo councillor representing Kitchener. Tom, good morning.
Good morning, Mike. Good to be here.
Great to have you here. Another former regional councillor, he from Cambridge, Carl Kiefer, with us as well. Mr. Kiefer, good morning, sir.
Good morning to you, Mike. Good to be here.
Great to have you. And David Marskell is with us as well, CEO of the museum in downtown Kitchener. Good morning, David.
Good morning, Mike. I think we should be calling this, rather than the Fabulous Four, we should be calling it the Old White Guys Network.
So that's a fair point, and I don't think anybody will disagree or take offense on this panel. We do have a carefully selected, a carefully curated group of teams, but we're into that time of year where sometimes we're going to our list of regular irregulars, if you will, and all three of you alternates.
Alternates,
Exactly.
I think it's called.
So despite our best efforts, we couldn't shake free of the four older white fellas here today. But that's okay. Our opinions will be registered as we go through the stories of the week, starting with that defense spending announced by Prime Minister Carney, some $9 billion. Canada will meet its NATO commitment. Mr. Galloway, I'll start with you on this. What do you think of the promise by the Prime Minister?
Well, I was quite surprised, actually, that we're going to be able to ramp up so quickly. I think myself, personally, I've thought that we needed to do this over a long period of time. I thought it would take a longer period of time than what he's proposing. And so I think there's some creative accounting maybe that's going into it to maybe say some of the other leaders in the world, maybe the one across the border. So I think that as much as I, propose peace and denounce, war, we're living in a time when we do have to be prepared, and we have not been up to scratch with our NATO allies. Even though we've promised to do so. This also, of course, I think we know full well might appease Trump to some extent as far as a talking point that he continues and others south of the border continue to use, how we are not pulling our weight. This may mitigate that to some extent. I'm not so sure. And quite frankly, as we are doing with all other things in our relationship with the states, trying to disentangle ourselves economically in world affairs, this is another effort on our part to be less reliant in all matters on the Americans.
Carl, what do you make of the commitment to defense spending?
Well, much along the lines of Tom, I think I was surprised as well. But I'm happy to see that it's happening. I think it's a good idea, Mike. We need to ramp up our defense system, and we for many years, whether it was under conservative or liberal governments, have lagged behind in this area, and we've got some huge defense contracts with manufacturing going, from buying from the States. But I think we have an opportunity in Canada here now to start manufacturing some of the equipment or buying it from other countries rather than the U.S. as well. And I think, there's equipment that needs updating. There's all kinds of things in terms of ships, planes. I've always wondered, Mike, why we don't have an aircraft carrier, because I always felt we should have one in the Pacific and the Atlantic and in the Arctic, and we don't have one. One would be a good start. But I think for sure we need to uphold our commitment with NATO, with our allies, and I do think it's a good idea.
Increasing the pay of members of our armed forces is the easy part. Procurement on the kinds of equipment you're talking about, Carl, is certainly a more difficult part, especially given our track record on procurement. But I feel similarly to both you and Tom when it comes to the need for this. It's kind of about time. Although, David, I have heard the argument that why are we so worried about this? We are Canada. People aren't going to invade anytime soon. I don't know if this just presents the new reality in the world or not. But, David, what do you make of the announcement?
Well, I tend to agree with what you just said. It is a new reality. And to your first point, spending money as quickly as possible will probably be easiest on personnel and to attract new personnel, which they need to do. And it's time we stepped up to meet the NATO's 2%. Like, we're not Switzerland, like we're sort of half in and half out. So we need to do that. And that number is going to increase, it sounds like. And the other reality is the Arctic's melting, and we need to protect, the resources and our shorelines and not to rely on the U.S. as both have said. And I read, and I don't recall, but I think it was the 1950s. At one point, our spending was at 9% after the Second World War. And I guess the other point that I feel some of the media may be missing a little bit, that I'm not hearing as much about, but I think it was Tom that said it, the creation of jobs and spurring manufacturing. Like that's going to be a huge jolt to us to help the country get past all this tariff stuff. So I think we all agree. I think it's a good thing, and it's about time we did it.
Yeah, in those 80 years since the end of World War II, there's been perhaps a deal of complacency that has set in. David Marskell, Tom Galloway, Carl Kiefer with us on the Friday 4 Roundtable this morning. We'll take a break. When we come back, and I know Tom Galloway and his experience with the Crime Prevention Council here when it was in Waterloo Region will have a unique perspective on how it is that a 13-year-old gets access to a handgun. That's a question we're asking in this community. We'll talk about it with our roundtable as we continue this morning on the Mike Farwell Show. 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Joining us around the table this morning, Carl Kiefer, David Marskell, Tom Galloway. Let's talk about teens and guns. That's right, you did not mishear me. Teenagers and firearms. And one of the questions being asked specifically is how it is that a 13-year-old boy came in possession of the firearm that he used in a threatening manner. He has since been charged. He fired it into the ground, but it was, by what we have heard in the reporting so far, an effort to intimidate in an incident that we're not really sure what it was about. Maybe some beef between two rival factions in the neighborhood. We're not entirely sure on that. But Carl, I'll start with you on this one. Where do we even begin? 13-year-olds. I mean, I remember what I was doing when I was 13, and it didn't involve the use of a firearm, but what do you make of this?
Well, it's a terrible thing, I think, Mike. I mean, you talk about when you were young. When I was young, I know that we had no guns whatsoever, handguns or rifles in our household, and weren't going anywhere near it. But I think one of the things here is that this has to start with the parents of teenagers. They need to be very, very responsible when it comes to guns, and if they're having them at all. And of course, teenagers are, as you know, inquisitive and will want to. But I think one of the real problems here, Mike, is, and I think it's starting to be addressed now, or trying to be addressed, is the social media, the movies, what teenagers see and hear on social media and TV and at the movies. Some of the things are terribly violent, and teenagers think that they can emulate some of these things. I don't buy it. And I just think that there needs to be more careful. Education is the key here too. I mean, it should be implemented in schools, I think, to teach young people about guns and firearms. I can recall back when an aunt of mine bought me a BB gun, and my mother flipped out big time. But that's me in my era. But I really think it needs to be dealt with carefully.
So are you saying that you were the character Ralphie in A Christmas Story? Is that what I just heard there?
Yeah, it could be, Mike. Could be.
You'll shoot your eye out, Mr. Kiefer. You'll shoot your eye out.
There you go. There you go.
David, what are your thoughts?
Every couple of months I read in the paper that the U.S. is going to add more sanctions to Russia. What? There's more sanctions? Put all the sanctions on Russia right now and stop the attack on Ukraine. Back to guns, the conservatives want to penalize people after a shooting, and the liberals tend to want to remove guns before a shooting. Like the sanctions, do both. Do it now. Get rid of handguns. Increase jail time if you use them. Just throw yourself at this. If farmers need guns, figure that one out. But get rid of guns, period.
Well, and you say something there that I think gets us into the weeds a little bit here, David, when you say, and I don't necessarily disagree, let's increase the penalties for the use of a handgun. Okay, but this was a 13-year-old. What are we going to do in this instance?
Get rid of guns. Get rid of handguns. Why do we have them in our society? Why do we allow them? If somebody is found with one, penalize them, automatic whatever jail time. But I don't know why we allow handguns in our society in Canada.
Yeah. So before we got there, though, if in this case, then would you penalize, like, is a 13-year-old going to jail then?
Maybe the parents, the notion of the parents have to have responsibility at some level at that age, for sure. But again, I think we just need to, like, they threw themselves at COVID and they fixed it, right? Throw ourselves at this. Like, let's figure it out. Does anybody really need a handgun in Canada? Like, I mean, farmers notwithstanding. So, I mean, just fix it. If it's a kid underage going to jail, I mean, then maybe the parents need to take some responsibility before and after the fact.
Yeah, and I've heard that argument made in particular connected to this incident because it is a 13-year-old. Maybe the parents bear some responsibility. Your underlying point, though, I like where you're coming from, David. We have shown that we have the political will to get big things done when we want to. So where is the will in this regard? Tom, I mentioned before the commercial break, and I didn't deliberately come to you last, but I think it works out in this case because you have a lot of experience in this regard with your work on the former Waterloo Regional Crime Prevention Council. And you and I have talked so often over the years about root causes. And I think this is a prime example of not getting to the root of a problem here. But I'll get out of the way and let's hear your thoughts on a 13-year-old with a handgun.
Well, you've read my mind really well, Mike. I hate being so predictable. But before I get into to getting on that soapbox, which I've done before, as you know, a 13-year-old handgun, I mean, he didn't purchase the handgun. That handgun was made available to him, whether it was intentional or not, through the parents or through some more some older person. And so some kind of responsibility has to be found for the individual who made that accessible. And I want to just agree with Carl, too. Social media and video games, I'm not sure you mentioned video games, really does glamorize violence as if there are no consequences to violence because, you know, it all happens on the screen and nobody gets hurt. But in real life, of course, they obviously do. And you know, when I was 13 years old, the most violent thing we did is when we played chestnuts, you know, and we tried to break the other person's chestnuts. But you know, but getting on the crime prevention piece, so now we will spend who knows how much money trying to deal with this particular issue in the criminal justice system. As a minor, we will probably have to deal with individuals like this and others through the criminal justice system, through the education system, through the healthcare system, because we have not provided the necessary supports in the upbringing of people who are vulnerable and people who are prone to getting into trouble. And you've heard this number before. We spend millions and millions and billions and billions of dollars on downstream activities in the courts and in the correction system and healthcare and education once a problem is identified, but we do so little in upstream activities. And research is clear. For every dollar you spend on upstream activities, you save $7 on downstream activities. So why can't we just start rearranging our priorities slowly but surely? And that was the plan many, many years ago, to just slowly divert resources from the downstream activities into upstream activities. We've just never been able to get there. It's almost kind of like the same thing with NATO, you know, trying to get up to a certain level of spending in this case, in a crime prevention case. But dealing with the root causes is we know how to do it. The evidence is empirical. We just need to get the will to do it and not worry about, you know, the instant gratification we get when we open up a new jail or, you know, a new downstream activity. So I don't want to use this 13-year-old. There may be all kinds of circumstances, but just in general, we're doing a poor job on upstream activities when we know that it's very, very effective.
What would upstream activities look like in this case, Tom? Like, are we providing more programming so these young people have other things to do, for example?
Well, in the book that I've read, Less Law, More Order, there's all kinds of examples of things that can be done at early stage. So you go into high-risk neighborhoods, you can provide supports to parents who are struggling, whose children are vulnerable, and there's the group that got the supports. There's the group, the control group who didn't get the supports, and 15 years later, the results are so obvious. It's a healthy babies program to help parents, after school programs, all kinds of things that can be done to support parents and support youth as they grow up. Teachers know how to identify the youth who are at risk. There's been programs called InReach, which was a very successful program, but the feds cut the funding. The results were very clear. Teachers identified at-risk students. They got into a program of supports. They thrived, and then the program died.
Tom Galloway,
isn't
Dave.
The root cause that there are guns in our society? Isn't that the root cause? Like, that to me is get rid of the guns.
I'm not diminishing that argument, but I look at it at a higher level. Guns is not the only issue that we have. I mean, the violence, the assault, the theft, the thefts, all those things are part of the same issue in terms of not providing, enough upstream support to youth who are at risk.
Tom Galloway, Carl Kiefer, David Marskell with us on the Friday 4 Roundtable this morning. It's the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. The Sheepdogs and I Don't Know for Suzanne on our All Request Friday here on the program. Fridays also mean our Friday 4 Roundtable, and joining us for the conversation around the week's big stories this week is David Marskell, who's the CEO of the museum in downtown Kitchener. Tom Galloway with us as well, former councillor in the region of Waterloo representing Kitchener, and Carl Kiefer, also a former regional councillor, he representing Cambridge. Let's talk about immigration and the plan put forward by Prime Minister Mark Carney in the Strong Borders Act, the first significant piece of legislation he is bringing before Parliament. And David, I'll start with you on this because we had the Migrant Rights Network on the show earlier this week, and that network compared very much this plan by Prime Minister Carney and our federal government here in Canada to be a mass deportation plan, the likes of which we're seeing underway in the United States under Donald Trump. And I wonder your thoughts on any comparisons between the two and maybe what you're seeing in LA right now, et cetera. Your thoughts on immigration.
Yeah, it's really a tough one. I'm not sure that you can compare what's happening in the United States to this bill, but it's a very tough balance. And if you pull one lever, something else moves. And we have such a huge country in terms of size, and refugees from around the world are growing through war or through climate change. So those things you need to reconcile, that we do have an awful lot of property here. I mean, 20 years ago, it was clear that we would have a labor shortage down the road, and now we do. And in part, that opened the door to some foreign students, which began coming to the country, and many stayed afterwards. And that created a housing shortage, and now the numbers are lower. It's created fewer riders, like 1 million fewer riders for the Grand River Transit. So there's just one thing. There's so many things that happen. But I think the biggest reason he has done this, Carney has done this, is to work with the United States on closing the borders. That's the key thing that's made him do this. He probably wouldn't have if it hadn't come up the way it did with fentanyl and all the ways Trump talked about. So it's a tough balance. And I mean, those in line now that have begun the process and so on, I would certainly keep them moving. And maybe there's some period of grace for a couple of years, or if family members are already here, there might be some way of softening it. But it's a tough one.
What do you make of what we're seeing in LA right now?
I think it's a master of deflection at the best. The economy's in the tank, things that he's doing with other parts of the agenda. He doesn't want them in the media. This is a great way for him to show strength and to seize the media. And he's got the narrative of the strength coming in, and he's against Newsom because he's a Democrat. But all the while, his tariffs and things are tanking over here, and there's bad stuff happening, and he doesn't want that in the media. What's literally happening on the ground is sad. It's terrifying and sad. And this weekend, there's 2,000 sites up around the U.S. that are, I forgot what the slogan is, something about no king, but there's going to be even more. And that's wonderful that the U.S. citizens are standing up to the tyranny that's happening, in my opinion.
Tom, I sometimes I see visuals out of LA, and I can't wrap my head around the fact that it's the United States. It's right next door, albeit California being so far away, but still the idea of our closest neighbor. Your thoughts on kind of where we're at right now in North America?
Well, I agree entirely with David.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you, Tom.
I entirely agree with David Marskell.
Got it.
Holy Mackinac. The only issue that Donald Trump is above water in, of all the various issues that are pulled in the States, is immigration. It's the only one. And that's the one he relies on. That's the go-to. That's the one that he's using now, as David said, to deflect attention away from all the other things that are grossly underwater in terms of what's going on in the States. I mean, he manufactured this in terms of both having ICE, go into the Home Depot and other places to root out people, and then sending in the National Guard and the Marines, which this became a huge lightning rod, as it ought to have been. And advancing the United States towards another brick in the wall of autocracy, a police state. And he's testing it out there. He'll do it elsewhere, and it deflects away from all the other things that they're doing in the States. Immigration continues to be his only issue that he's above water on, and even that is coming down as well. So that's how I see it in North America. Or did you want me to go into the act as well?
Well, I am curious about that, because when it comes to the act, and to touch on what David was talking about, I mean, the reports from Immigration Canada say about 500,000 illegal immigrants in Canada today that are, I think, expected to just voluntarily leave. I don't know how we square that circle here in Canada.
Yeah, no, I think it is an issue that we have to deal with. And I think, first of all, in the Strong Borders Act, that's only a small part of it, of course. And it's the part that's going to be controversial. I'm not sure too many people are opposed to the Coast Guard, getting ramped up, or guns coming across the border and drugs coming across the border be clamped down on, or some of these other matters. But when it comes to the issue in the Strong Borders Act, where they're looking at tightening, deadlines and processes for asylum and refugee status seekers, this is the lightning rod on this particular act, and we do have to deal with this issue. I mean, there are, and how that's done, as David has said, you pull one lever and something else happens. But we have all kinds of people wanting to come to Canada through normal processes, and we do need the immigration for our labor force and our quality of life. But we have a lot of people seeking asylum and seeking refugee status, sometimes that may or may not be warranted in terms, in order to jump the queue. And so I do think that, to be fair to everybody who's trying to get into Canada or stay in Canada, there needs to be possibly some stricter rules. But it'll be a very difficult, tricky process to do that, and one that I would hope the government will put their mind to. But other than that, I think the Strong Borders Act is a good thing. Not only does it maybe deal with the orange monster down south of the border, because you can be almost 100% performative with him, and you're going to get a nod from him as long as you compliment him and make it look like they're doing something.
Carl Kiefer.
Well, I agree with David and Tom right off the bat and everything that was said, but
Holy Mackinac.
Holy Mackinac, yeah. As a Leaf fan, I love it. Anyways, getting back to the subject, though, as an immigrant myself, and my parents coming here to Canada in the 50s, through an immigration process that was working and worked well. A lot of things have changed from the 50s till now, of course, and I agree that we need to have a process that is good for immigration and refugees. And I think sometimes there's a problem between identifying refugees versus immigrants, and then of course the fact that you have illegal immigrants, illegal refugees, and I agree with Tom, that the process needs to be, fine-tuned there. I as far as our folks down south there, I don't like the ICE thing at all. I think it's a Trump exercising his how do you want to call it, his fascist ways. Looks pretty fascist to me as to what's going on there. Do I think we are close to that? No, I don't think we're close to that, but we need to reinforce, as Tom and David have mentioned, on the border strengthening and things like that. I just don't know what to make of the ICE thing. It's just terrible. Like going into Walmarts and grocery stores and taking people out that, there was a story the other day in the news that ICE stopped if you can imagine, a federal marshal, U.S. marshal. I don't get that, but that sounds pretty fascist to me, and in the direction that Trump seems to be going. But I think our Canadian government, our Prime Minister, has to take care of some business as well. And I don't think it'll be done, though, through the form of an ICE program or something like that. But it's a difficult process for sure.
It is an interesting time to be alive. That is also for sure. Carl Kiefer, David Marskell, Tom Galloway with us on the Friday 4 Roundtable this morning. Yes, you can still use the word family within our public school board. Of course you can. But how did we get into this hornet's nest? We'll talk about it with our roundtable as we continue on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV.
On a warm summer's evening, on a train bound for nowhere, I met up with a gambler. We were both too tired to sleep, so we took turns of staring out the window at the darkness till boredom overtook us, and he began to speak.
Avery wanted to hear a little bit of Kenny Rogers on this All Request Friday, and so there is enough of The Gambler to get you singing along in your head as we wrap things up with our Friday 4 Roundtable this morning. Tom Galloway, Carl Kiefer, and David Marskell with us. Tom, I'll start with you on the slides that were leaked from a presentation done for teachers' professional development within our Waterloo Region District School Board. Uh, I'm not surprised that it got twisted into the kind of story it got twisted into, where there was a sense in some corners that you could not say the word family. I'm trying to get down to the root of maybe why this was even leaked. But what's your take really on what we're seeing in public education lately?
Well, I think this is really an ant in a molehill, really, issue. As it appears, a disaffected teacher took some exception to it and then leaked it to an alt-right media outlet called Juno News, who's been around for about 3 months. They're kind of like Rebel News, as I understand. And so they ran with it because it plays to their base, family under attack. But I think as the education director, Miller, has said, it was taken totally out of context. I think it's good for teachers to learn that families in this day and age don't all look the same. There are families now that are led by grandparents and live in the house with the family and the siblings. There's the regular, I guess we call it nuclear family, but there's different types of families, and teachers need to be sensitive to that. So if that was the context in which the education program for teachers was being presented, then I see absolutely nothing wrong with it. And Education Director Miller was pretty adamant that the family was not under attack in that particular presentation, but it appears there was a teacher who has a different view and then leaked it to a news agency who they obviously have some affinity to and have some ideological affinity to, and of course they ran with it, and then other news outlets picks it up as if it's correct, and then the Board of Education is left to have to explain what was really going on. But I'm glad to see that teachers are hearing about different kinds of things that don't always fit the norm. I think they need to understand those things when they are confronted with them in the classroom.
I'm glad you brought up Director Miller, because I think it was commendable that he came forward and responded to this. Maybe thought he shouldn't have to, but did, because there was enough concern in the community once the stuff started circulating online. I think it's I think he
did a great job in explaining it.
I thought so too. And the fact that he was willing to do so, I think, is important to note in this regard for sure. Carl, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, Mike, I totally agree with what Tom just said, and I do believe it was taken out of context, in terms of what family meant, and for sure I do agree too that today modern day families don't look the same as what we used to know families as in the past, and so you have to realize that and take that into consideration, and for sure. And I know my daughter's a teacher. What Tom was talking about, for sure, the teachers need to know this, and they see it, of course, every day. And my own daughter has come to me and told me about different families that some families have two fathers, some families have two mothers, others have grandparents involved. That's the way it is. And but for this leak to come out and trying to say that, family's a bad thing, that's not right. And, we all know on this panel that families mean a lot to everybody and to the world. And to have something like that come out and say, that family's a bad thing, that's not right.
David, your thoughts?
Yeah, I wasn't totally up to speed on this one. I missed the news, but I agree with everything being said, even with Tom, and and certainly with the head of the school board. I thought they did a great job in exposing that it was definitely taken out of context, and it was a much larger conversation. I mean, I'm sort of paraphrasing from their release, but it was a larger development session exploring different communities and how they view public institutions and how educators should be thinking and knowledgeable of the words that they use. I mean, family is a good thing, and it's a good word, in my opinion, but nobody should be able to define it. At the museum, we stopped offering family memberships and allow people to build their own memberships based on however they want to build their family membership.
It's a great way to look at it. Just as we wrap things up here today, Carl, I know that you, like me, are a long-suffering Leafs fan. At least Tom Galloway gave you a holy Mackinac as Joe Bowen is on his way out the door. You got your coffee mug with the Leafs on. Good man. I don't know what we're going to do without Joe, Carl. We're going to have to find somebody. Maybe Marskell will call the games for us.
I think, Mike, what will happen is you'll see maybe his son, Joe's son, come in there. I know he's the play-by-play guy for the Sudbury Wolves, and he might just fill the job. Who knows?
Just like Joe used to be.
Just like Joe used to be. That's
Play-by-play
right.
in Sudbury. That's right. Yeah.
What about Mike Farwell? What about Mike Farwell?
No, he's busy.
Well, yeah. Mike would be good, too.
Hockey night in Kitchener.
Yeah.
It'll be just like the Hewitts. One will take over from the other.
Exactly. And if I stop, go ahead, Carl.
Mike, I just want to say, don't forget on Sunday, I'm going to see you on Sunday.
Oh, you're coming for asparagus at Barry's?
Of course. I wouldn't miss it.
Attaboy. We'll see you there sometime between noon and 3. Carl Kiefer, David Marskell, Tom Galloway on our Friday 4 roundtable. Gentlemen, thank you for the time today. Enjoy the weekend ahead.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye now. Thanks, Dave. Thanks, Mike.
It's the Mike Farwell Show on 570 News Radio and Rogers TV.
And now the sound of time is passing fast, it's getting late, don't know if I can take much more. When you talk, I often wondered if I heard the word somewhere, someplace before.
Some Simple Minds and Chelsea Girl for Terry. It's an all request Friday here on the show. And you know what else Fridays means, right? Free phones. I'm not giving you a phone, but I'm making sure the phone lines are available to you for our final hour together of the week. How would you like to finish things off? Open lines coming up. Free phones Friday on the Mike Farwell Show. 570 News Radio and Rogers TV.
Take out the papers and the trash, or you don't get no spending cash. If you don't scrub that kitchen floor, you ain't gonna rock and roll no more. Yakety yak.
Don't talk back.
Just finish cleaning up your room. Let's see that dust fly with that broom. Get all that garbage out of sight, or you don't go out Friday night. Yakety yak.
Don't talk back.
On Fridays, your Talkback Hour is what we call Free Phones Friday, where you can discuss whatever topic it is that's motivating you today. I mean, some thought starters around Joe Bowen's departure at the end of next season as the play-by-play voice of the Toronto Maple Leafs. 44 years. And in all that time, he'll have amassed 3,800 games called by the end of next season and still not have called a Stanley Cup Finals game. Oh, make it the one that the Leafs get it done, Joe Bowen says in his statement this morning announcing his retirement at the end of next season. And connected to that, there's been some discussion, including on our Friday 4 panel just as it ended, about maybe Joe Bowen's son being next in line. I think David does a fine job. I will say, though, just in all honesty, there are many a seasoned broadcaster with a whole lot more games, American Hockey League and National Hockey League, under their belts than David, who has called games admirably for the Sudbury Wolves. It might be a little soon, though, for David to make the jump from Sudbury to the big chair in Toronto. But that's just me. Who knows? You can weigh in on that. Speaking of things that were mentioned in our Friday 4 roundtable, Carl Kiefer mentioned at the outset that he would be seeing me on Sunday, or as we wrapped up. At Sunday, I should have reminded you already, and I'm sorry I forgot to do that. Sunday, Barry's Asparagus, noon to 3. Come on out. Bring Dad if you want to. Get them a little bit of lunch. We're going to do deep fried asparagus right off the field into the schmuck truck and then into your belly with some garlic aioli. It is fantastic. And it is a fundraising finale for Farwell for Hire. So please do join us at Barry's Asparagus Sunday from noon until 3. One of the other things that we talked about during the Friday 4, and I got a lot of email about, a 13-year-old arrested and charged with offenses related to the discharging of a firearm in an effort to intimidate, whatever the case might be. Where's the problem here? I mean, do we start holding parents liable for this? Do we need stricter? This is guaranteed to have been an illegal gun, illegally obtained. Do we go after the person, kind of like we talk about with drugs, who made it available to the 13-year-old in the first place? Do you want to see 13-year-olds punished to the full extent of the law? I don't know the answer here, but there are a lot of questions being asked as to how a 13-year-old ends up in possession of a firearm. Let's get to the phones. Free Phones Friday starts with Kyle. Good afternoon, Kyle.
Good afternoon, Mike. You know what? I'm very jealous of your Barry's asparagus thing this weekend.
Oh, so good, buddy.
That.
So good.
If my dad lived closer, I would totally take him, but he lives in Niagara, and he's already booked 2 rounds of 18 for Saturday and Sunday for us to play golf with him.
I love it. Good for you.
But it was a fun game, but you know what the only problem is my sister and I, we play against him, and we can never win against him. That guy's got like it's like he's playing in the PGA every time he comes after us. Like, we can never get birdies, we can never get pars. We're fighting over each other on my sister and I are jokingly fighting over each other on who got the best round that hole and all that stuff, right? And then Dad just goes and gets a birdie and pars all the time, and he starts laughing at us, and it's a good time. So anyways, but I just want to say happy Father's Day to those for this weekend, and those that don't have a father. It doesn't matter. It's just go out and celebrate with the ones that you love the most, and have a great weekend, guys. It's supposed to be beautiful weather, and enjoy. Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, Kyle. Appreciate the call. Nice sentiment to start off. Mark, you're next on Free Phones. Hello.
Hi, Mike. I'm still pumped after last night's hockey game.
Oh, go Canada, huh?
Did you watch it?
I only watched the first 2 periods because I get up pretty early, so I had to shut her down.
Okay. Oh, my goodness. What a game, Mike.
What a game.
Wow. Incredible. They came back nicely, and they won.
Yeah.
Which was fantastic. So it's back to Edmonton now.
It is.
And I think they're going to pull it out, Mike.
You think so, eh?
I honestly do. Yeah, man.
Well.
And, okay, another thing, Mike.
Yeah.
I'm going to see you on Sunday.
Oh, good. I'm glad you're going to make it.
At Barry's.
Good.
12 to 3.
Yes, sir.
And one more thing. I haven't heard from Andre lately.
Well, that's okay, isn't it?
Well, yeah, no, I'm just saying, no, Mike.
Maybe you'll bring him out of the woodwork today, Mark.
Okay. Anyway, Mike, see you on Sunday, man.
I look forward to it, buddy. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Would love to see you on Sunday. Noon until 3, Barry's Asparagus, our deep fried asparagus fundraiser, with the support of Christine and Brad aboard the Schmuck truck as well. It's going to be awesome. Big win for the Edmonton Oilers last night. Next game comes up on Saturday. It's now a best of 3 in the series. Interesting times in the Stanley Cup. I couldn't. If it had been a deciding game, I would have stayed up for the whole thing. But I got to get up early. I can't be watching hockey till all hours of the night. I'll save that for Rangers season. JB, Free Phones Friday. Good afternoon.
Happy Friday. Happy early Father's Day, friend.
Thanks, buddy. You too.
Thank you. Just on the Bowen thing. I'm not a Leafs fan, but I do love listening to the broadcasts. So, he's going to be missed, but I really want them to look really, really hard for a good replacement because there is way too much nepotism in broadcasting, and I really just want to see someone that deserves the seat, not because of who they are, but because of what they have as far as their pedigree and their resume is concerned.
Wait a minute. You're saying we should have a meritocracy, JB? Come on.
I mean, is that super unreasonable? Come on.
I don't think so. I'm with you on that. Absolutely.
Fair. Have a good one.
You too, JB. Great to hear from you today. It's Free Phones Friday, where we take your calls. You start the conversation on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. you go, Nate Dogg. By request on this All Request Friday, some Saga climbing the ladder that is in honor of Saga's 48th anniversary. Their first show, don't you know, was in the beautiful city of Cambridge. If you didn't know, now you do. Free Phones Friday continues where you start the conversation. Just make a phone call to us. Mary has done that. Hello, Mary.
Oh, hi, Mike.
Hi.
Wish you good success on Sunday.
Thank you very much.
I tried to get in yesterday, and here's my thoughts.
Okay.
If the region needs to get a money grab, I believe totally, and have for a long time, that cyclists should have to have a license.
It's not a bad idea.
No, because you know what? And the police should focus on the cyclists have become what would you call it? Entitled, way too entitled.
I wonder if cyclists were to be licensed, they would have to be under the Highway Traffic Act, I assume, and I'm not sure the region could get that money unless we could license them like taxis. I don't know, but I like where you're coming from.
Here, Mike.
Okay.
Here's the thing.
Yeah.
The police do not. They are to have a bell legally.
Yes, I would be fine if they just yelled, "Hey, I'm coming up behind you."
Well, that's fine, but they don't.
I understand.
My husband run quickly away on the path and fell down, and all the guys said, "Are you okay?" Blah blah. He was still in the bushes. Another guy was hurt terribly with a cyclist. They don't always say coming through. I'm telling you, Mike. I think they have to be more responsible. They are using our highways. We're spending all this money on their trails. Come on, Mike. License them.
Okay, Mary, duly noted.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate the call. Look, there are two things, okay? Maybe three. I'll just make it easier. Two things, okay? That each of us needs when we are on the road or using the road. And I'm going to include sidewalks, trails, etc. When we are oot and about, okay? We need to use our brains. At all times, make sure your brain is in gear before engaging foot, leg, accelerator, foot, you name it. Use your ding-dang brain, please. And how about extending some common courtesy to your fellow road user? Whichever mode of transportation they are using, extend to them the courtesy that they deserve as your neighbor. Couldn't we do that? Mary talks about if the region needs more money. I think she's alluding to the speed camera program. We're making some dents. I hope we can continue making those dents. How about the city of Vaughan? I mentioned this yesterday. They have suspended fines issued by their new speed cameras. I will quote from the mayor of Vaughan. "We have heard your concerns loud and clear about the way the program was implemented." Hey, Region of Waterloo, have you heard our concerns about how you're implementing our program? Come on with your coming on. Be like Vaughan. Grant, you're on Free Phones Friday. Hello.
Mr. Mike.
That's
I think
me.
we should have a mic on a loudspeaker mic on our bike.
You got Grant, you got a loudspeaker mic every day 9 to 1, pal.
You're hilarious.
Thank you.
Or is it Michael? No, you
Don't you dare.
Oh, I love.
Only my mother calls me Michael.
And so does your colleague there. I understand. Jen.
Don't worry about her. Don't you worry about her.
She's a nice little lady.
Okay. How do you know she's little? She might be 7 feet tall.
Well, whatever height. she
Okay.
is. I'm going to touch on a bunch of topics. You got lots of time.
Not really.
All right.
Okay.
America's Got Talent. Guy did a.
Wait a minute. Of all the things that are going on in the news, you want to talk to me about America's Got Talent?
This guy that did his thing, and
What was his thing, Grant?
I like you to do
Tell me what his thing was.
the almost exact same thing, but you're going to do double
Okay.
for your Mike Farwell.
Okay, Farwell for hire. What am I going to do, Grant?
He had 4 masonry jars filled with different kinds of liquid that he was drinking. One was pickle juice. 2 was hot dog water. 3, it was cream corn and then hot sauce. I'd like you to do two of each.
Okay.
See if you can handle that.
I'll see if I can handle 2 of each. What I want to know is how that in any way demonstrates one's talent. I don't get it. It demonstrates the integrity of your guts, but other than that, I don't see. I don't notice any talent in there. It's Free Phones Friday. You see what happens when you open the phone lines? That's what happens on the Mike Farwell Show. 570 News Radio and Rogers TV.
She's gonna tell 2 friends, she's gonna tell 2 friends to tell ya. She's gonna tell 2 friends, she's gonna tell 2 friends to tell ya. She's
Those are the Sean Connerys. Song called Tell 2 Friends, in case you couldn't tell from the opening lyrics. That's by request for Michael on this All Request Friday on the show. It's also Free Phones Friday. Right back to the phones we go. Ryan, good afternoon.
Hey, Mikey, how you doing, buddy?
I'm great, thank you. And you?
Good, just enjoying my hot dog water and pickle juice. Quick question for you.
Yes, sir.
Well, I think you can help me. So, was it true that recently 79 people complained about fireworks, and then they banned the sale of fireworks in our city? Is that right?
They have not yet, but that was the number of complaints in Cambridge, 79. You are correct. And Cambridge Council will consider a report next week to ban the sale of fireworks like Waterloo and Kitchener have.
Oh, okay. So maybe, just maybe, I could get 80 people to call and complain about the bike lanes that aren't being used? You think they would consider removing those on major arteries?
Well, I mean, that's the precedent now, Ryan, so I'm with you, buddy, and I will add my voice to those complaints.
Wonderful. It's kind of like the tail wagging the dog right now, so we should get the dog wagging the tail again.
I'm with you, brother. Let's do it.
That's cool. Take care, friend.
Thanks, Ryan. I appreciate it. Excellent ear, my friend. 79 complaints. That's the sum total for Cambridge to consider, and I think Council will decide to go in the direction of Kitchener and Waterloo and ban the sale of fireworks starting next year. Ridiculous, in my opinion. Andy, good afternoon.
Yes, good afternoon, Mike. I'd just like to give a shout out to all the fathers for Father's Day. It's important. I've lost my father, but I really miss him. The guidance and listening and giving advice on things. It's really important to be there for your dad on his day. But another thing I want to talk about, you're talking about bikes yesterday. I had a phone call. But electric scooters crossing Homer Watson there, right across, the pedestrian walkway, they fly down there. No reflective, vest or anything like that. But I think, geez, what happened to the days where you have to get off your bike or EV and walk across? I mean, there's a good crossing guards around at the time of the schools, but geez, I'm with you on that. What you said yesterday about the bikes and they gotta go by the rules.
You know what, Andy? I appreciate the call, and I got to get to news, but I'm with you. And it's why we don't dismount and walk across MR, because we don't think we have to. Like, we somehow feel as though we're entitled to just zip through those electric things. Oh, my goodness, we're in a whole new world. Free Phones Friday continues on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV.
They're all alive in old movies. See them, even though they're gone.
you remember Bob and Doug McKenzie, the Hosers from SCTV? Dave Thomas played, I think, Doug, right? Anyway, that's Dave Thomas's brother, Ian Thomas, singing a song called Good Night, Mrs. Calabash, by request for Ron here on your All Request Friday. It's also Free Phones Friday. Right back to the phones. Doug, good afternoon.
Pardon? Did you say Doug?
I said Doug.
Oh, it's Nate Dogg.
Then I don't know why my screen says Doug, but you know what? It's
that's
par
fine.
for the frickin' course today around here.
Yeah, it's Friday the 13th. Hey, speaking of that, I know Terry called in, and he was wondering about the weather on Friday or on Sunday for the berries asparagus thing. So forecast is looking good. Hope to see a lot of dads out there, and I hope everyone has a great weekend. Let's go.
Thanks, Doug.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. Terry, you're on Free Phones. If this is Terry, maybe it's Larry or Mary or Carrie.
Or Jerry.
Or Jerry. Barry.
Was that Nate that just called in before?
That was Nate.
Nate Dogg. I haven't
Nate
seen him in
Dogg.
a while. I hope he comes out on Sunday.
You know what? I'm gonna let you in on a little secret since you just said that. He's gonna be there. He's gonna help us. We're gonna have some Farwell for hire swag.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah.
Right on. I haven't. Yeah, last time I saw Nate, like during the pandemic, like 4 or 5 years ago. Nice guy, by the way.
He is a nice guy.
Actually, Mike, I was out Saturday afternoon. I was out your neck of the woods there. I went to a little hobby shop there on Victoria Street there, Victoria and Frederick. And when I left, I went, got off near Baden to go to that wonderful restaurant, the Scram and Dram. But anyway, going through Baden into New Hamburg, starting where Waterloo Oxford Collegiate is, it was 40 kilometers all the way through. I think it was like 3 schools I passed.
Yeah.
So I just set my cruise at 35 and just went right by. I didn't want to get a ticket. But maybe the money they can generate from all these speed cameras, maybe they can patch some potholes there by where Frederick and Victoria Street is. I think they patched up a little bit. I was there a couple months ago, and I had my car at that time. And I tell you, man, there was a pothole there that would swallow Manhattan. I think it knocked my alignment out. But yeah, I think that's what they should do with all that speed camera money is patch up some of these potholes, not just in Waterloo region. I think all over the place. I'm getting tired of keep getting my alignment fixed because of these massive potholes. I understand it's the weather and the wintertime you get the thaws and all that, but yeah, it's a hard one. But I think some of the money they generate from that, they can use for that for repairs of potholes. Anyway, Mike, we'll see you Sunday. Have a good one, eh?
Thanks, Terry. I'm looking forward to it. I'm glad you're going to be able to make it. If you want to see us all on Sunday, too, berries, asparagus, please and thank you. Noon until 3. We're going to be making some deep fried. Well, I'm not making it. I can't do what Brad and Christine on the schmuck truck do, but we'll get the asparagus off the field into the schmuck truck, deep fry it, serve it up with some garlic aioli. It is a nice beer batter, nice and light. It's beautiful. You'll love it. It's all in support of Farwell for Hire, our final fundraising event, Sunday, noon to 3 at Barry's Asparagus. I don't know that the region can use speed camera revenue for road improvements. I think it's only road safety. However, I'm not opposed to the idea of doing something. I drive, as you know, every day, Ira Needles Boulevard to get to the radio station. Ira Needles is one of the roads that has made the CAA's list for worst roads this year. I am hereby calling it the Ira Needles embarrassment. Because that's what it is. It is an utter embarrassment in planning and in construction and management of it. It's a corduroy road, and every day it frustrates the HE double hockey sticks out of me. I got no other way to get here, region of Waterloo. It's the Ira Needles embarrassment, and you should be embarrassed by it, quite frankly. Preston Paul, good afternoon.
Hey, how's it going, eh?
Good, buddy. How's it going with you, eh?
Yeah, take off, eh?
I knew that's where you were going, you hoser.
That's right. I'm old enough to be that hoser. How you doing today?
I'm doing all right, thanks, buddy. How are you?
All right.
Good.
Did I hear you say earlier that you went to Tim Hortons, you had your baseball hat on backwards?
This was a long time ago. It was a lot, but yes, I don't know. Maybe I did. I know I was in ripped jeans. I was working in the yard. I didn't care.
Well, I don't care about the clothes you wear, but you got to have your hat on right.
I'm with you. I'm with you, Preston Paul. It never has happened since.
Yeah. And you know what? I think when these kids do these violent crimes and stuff like that, the parents should be held accountable. And then maybe they might pay a little more attention to their kids and point them in the right direction.
Yeah, I've heard that argument, and when you're talking about a 13-year-old kid, I mean, I think many of us want to see somebody held to account for this.
But 13, I just blows my mind. I'm out delivering papers at 13 years old and trying to find work where I can make a bit of extra money doing whatever I could back then. And now it's guns and violence, and they don't care anymore. Like, I just don't understand where society has gone.
I think we failed the kids, Paul. I think we have.
We have. And, I think tough love, we need to bring that back. Like, I was never a parent, but I'm pretty sure 99.5% of the parents out there only punish their kids, maybe beat them because they had to. They needed to learn a lesson. And now there's no lessons to be learned. They know they can do whatever they want.
All right, you hoser, go have a good weekend, okay?
All right, cool. You go.
Preston Paul, listen, I don't think we need to go back to any corporal punishment and beating anyone's child, but I do think we're missing something somewhere, and we are certainly letting our kids down. You talk about delivering papers to make some money. Some of these young people are probably being used by organized crime organizations older than them because they know the youngsters won't get punished for it. And so you can, dangle $250 or $500 in front of a kid and it looks awfully good. I had to deliver a lot of papers to make that much money back in the day. Free Phones Friday continues on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV.
So you think you could tell heaven from hell, blue skies from pain? Can you tell a green field from a cold steel rail, a smile from a veil? Do you think you can tell?
A little bit of Pink Floyd for our buddy Preston Paul, that hoser who just called the show a moment ago. Wish you were here. I'm glad you are here. I don't say that often enough. Thank you for listening to this show. Even if you're just one of those passive listeners who never calls in, that's okay. We like that you're here. Appreciate the time you spend with us. And remember, the invitation is always open. We love our first-time callers on the show. 519-570-2545, star 570, and 1-800-570-5715. You are always welcome here. I know sometimes I'll give you a hard time, but only if you deserve it. We're all about accountability. You can give me a hard time when I deserve it too. That's how this works. But mostly, like 87% of the time, we get along famously on this show. And on Fridays, we play your requests. I love the chance to do that, even though this is now a talk radio station. I say now because back in the day, you probably remember 570 on the good old AM dial was the music station in this town. Oh, the memories. Let's get back to Free Phones Friday, though. Francis, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mike. I thought you needed some help on the phone, so I thought I'll give you a call. I somewhat agree with Mary as far as licensing people on their bikes. I walk, but hopefully that doesn't mean the seniors that know how to use their bell and get off at crosswalks and you walk across. I watched a few times where older, I should say middle-aged people with younger children drive across intersections and stuff, not getting off their bikes. Like I said, come on, what are you teaching these people? And of course, I could go on. And I like my thing when I go down the street, I have a belt that I use. I see people walking, and I'll say, ice cream, ice cream. Well, I get their attention. And at that, I'll just say, God bless and have a great day.
God bless, Francis. Thank you very much for the call. I shared the story yesterday during the Talkback Hour, and I was still pretty fired up about it because it was truly not only momentarily frightening, but then a really frustrating incident when some guy, I called him a spandex warrior, and I stand by that, came flying down Glasgow, and I was driving down Glasgow at Westmount, and the vehicle in front of me was turning right. And all of a sudden, so of course I'm giving that vehicle space, and the space that I gave the vehicle in front of me, this spandex warrior came flying down, passing me on the right. It was like a blur out of the corner of my eye. And the next thing I know, he cuts in front of me. So now he's between me and the vehicle making the turn, and then around that vehicle so he could continue speeding down Glasgow Road or Glasgow Street in Kitchener. And the limit on Glasgow is 40. I did the limit. I didn't get any closer to him on the way down the street. And that's fine. Do the speed limit on your bike. I don't care. But and rode through the next intersection in the same way. Look, I live near a four-way stop, and I saw a gentleman the other day. Was it just yesterday? Doesn't matter. But ride right through the four-way stop. And you know what? I used to get really twisted about that. I don't care anymore. I really don't. There wasn't another vehicle in sight. I was walking at the time. Go ahead and do stuff like that. It's fine because you recognized there's not much traffic on the road and you're not going to cause anybody any harm by just rolling right on through. I'm okay with that. But you got to use your head. And what this spandex warrior was doing on Glasgow Street the other day was not using his head at all. I'm sorry that it's less convenient for you as someone who rides a bicycle or someone who walks to get around town. I recognize that we built this city for cars. We built this city on rock and roll, and we built this city for motorized vehicles. I get that. And I'm sorry, but we can't necessarily undo that. If you want to ride a bicycle, ride a bicycle. If you want to walk, walk. And just recognize that when you do that, it comes with certain challenges. And you, as the walker or the bicycle rider, have to use that thing between your ears. And if you don't have that thing between your ears, I'm talking about your brain, by the way, then maybe you ought not be out on the roads anyway, because you are a danger to yourself and a danger to others. I am this close. I am this close, and I'm holding my thumb and index finger very close together right now. I am this close to deciding that this whole Vision Zero thing is a scam that somebody created to get municipalities to spend money on all of these initiatives we don't need if you just used your damn brain. I get really frustrated by it, and I listen to our cities talk about being strapped for cash. We need more of this, we need more of that, we don't have enough money. Well, stop spending it on stuff that people with brains don't need. It's the Mike Farwell Show, Free Phones Friday, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. We get one more request into the show on this All Request Friday. Darcy wanted to hear some Sister Sledge. And we are family. Let's dedicate it to our public school board, shall we? Good job by you, Darcy. Let's get back to the phones. Free Phones Friday continues. Pat, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mike. I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about the 75th anniversary of the airport.
Sure.
Yeah, back in I guess just after the Second World War, my dad came out and started working doing books for a company called Narrow Fabrics, which was owned by George Stobie. Well, at the time, George Stobie came up with this brilliant idea. He wanted to get a little charter business flying out of the airport back in the late 1950s. So he came to my dad and he said, "Hey, Pat, you're a pilot, aren't you?" And he said, "Yeah." He said, "I got an idea." So he went out and he got 3 planes. He operated as Swift Airways, running charters. But a lot of it was to be George Dobie's private pilot, kind of. He used to fly a lot back when the textile industry was really rolling in this area. He'd fly down to, a lot of times, to the southern states and into the Bahamas, I guess, more of an adventure, I guess. But my dad was the pilot who ran the business for him, and they were actually the first commercial business to operate out of the airport.
So are you going to be on hand for the open house tomorrow from 10 till 3?
I'm going to try anyway. I've got so much. I got a busy life, but we're going to try and make it. We used to be at all the air shows, and it was a really good time. My sister actually, when they in the lounge at the in the hangar, had her 60th birthday party there, and had some of our neighbors play for it. Major Hoople's boarding house.
Oh my gosh, I love it! I love it.
Oh yeah. It was a good time back then.
Good stuff. That's a really great story, Pat. Thanks for sharing it.
You're welcome.
Appreciate the call. Bye-bye. I remember seeing a concert by none other than Blue Rodeo in the hangar at the airport. It was called the Hangar Party to celebrate the opening of that new hangar. And yes, tomorrow, our Region of Waterloo International Airport celebrates its 75th anniversary. So you can be there for an open house between 10 and 3. And hey, while you're there, look for a flight that takes you somewhere. Come on with your coming on. We need to get a little bit more passenger service. I think, Flair's going to be reducing operations in September, and I don't know, we had American Airlines out of there, we had Bearskin flying out of there, we got what's left of Flair right now, but I think we need, and we got those vacation charters, I know, but come on, let's go. It's an important piece of infrastructure we put a lot of money into. 75th anniversary tomorrow, 10 till 3 at the Region of Waterloo International Airport. I've got a skedaddle. I hope I'll see you at Barry's Asparagus on Sunday from noon to 3. Deep fried asparagus for Farwell for hire. My name is Mike Farwell. Bye for now.